Thank you. This is our first meeting, I think, virtual meeting of the year. So milestone for us as we're getting in here, and very excited to introduce our keynote speaker for today. But before we get into the details, I'd like to just kind of give a quick background of San Diego Tech Hub and what we've been up to, at least this year, and what you can expect going into next month. So for those that are familiar with San Diego Tech Hub or not familiar with San Diego Tech Hub, we are a community of professionals that is focused on investing in our local hometown. And we are seeking out opportunities to connect needs to opportunities. And we call our members here within San Diego Tech Hub conduits. And we serve job seekers, entrepreneurs, and social change makers. And so all is welcome as we sort of navigate and how we can help connect needs to opportunities in our local hometown. We provide services for our community. And our goal is to help create products and services that help connect, inform, and empower our community. And so whether that's job placement programs, or we partner with others, or within the community workshop and training opportunities that we have. And we also have volunteer opportunities to where we would like to give back. And so these are all the types of things that we offer within San Diego Tech Hub. And while I will say, the pandemic has slowed some things down, we are actively working on re-engaging with the community and providing services that add value to each of our conduits. Sorry about the graphics here, but last Saturday, we had the opportunity to give back our time and energy to the Carlsbad Lagoon cleanup. And this was just a great time to help clean up the lagoon. Had some of our conduits come out to help, but it was a great time. We're going to have future volunteer opportunities coming up. Not next month, but the month after next. So, definitely be on the lookout at Meetup. And if you can make it, timing allows, would love to have you come out to help make an impact. Next month, we will have our April happy hour. So that'll be April 21st. And so we had a great turnout this month. And it was just great to see some faces, just conversate and have a great time. So again, be on the lookout for that through Meetup. If you would care to join in the area. So this is just all the various ways that you can connect with us on Slack, our newsletter, on Meetup, in addition to Twitter and LinkedIn. Love for you to connect, love for you to come out, love for you to have a good time and give back and just network. So that's all the wonderful things San Diego Tech is doing. I would like to introduce a special guest. She is representing Texiu. They are a sponsor of San Diego Tech Hub. So a lot of the services, events, and things that we provide, they're helping to sponsor those things so they can keep us free or keep things free for our community. So Saul, I'd love to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Texiu.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Clyde, for having us. It's a pleasure to be part of San Diego Tech Hub as always. And we're always looking forward to meeting conduits. Now that I can travel, I'm looking forward to meeting all of you guys in person, hopefully in happy hours. We are excited to partner with San Diego Tech Hub. One of the things that originally really attracted us to San Diego Tech Hub was how much our vision and values are the same. Our promise has always been to give back to our community, and the community we serve is the tech ecosystem. Just a little backstory about Texiu. We started about 60 years ago when a group of semi-child conductor employees came together and decided that it has to be a better way for them to take care of their finances. And the past 60 years, we have kept the promise to keep the best service we can to the tech ecosystem. And recently, we have decided to expand our footprint to Southern California, and that's why we're here today with you. We're excited to bring Texiu to Southern California and have everybody be able to enjoy the products and services that we have and the support that we have. In 2021, we have done a brand refresh and a logo refresh to really reflect what we are trying to achieve with Texiu. And we have a video for you that I would love to share with you. I don't think we can hear the sound. I'm so sorry. I know that we can't hear anything and there's a sound on the video, but I'm not sure why it's not coming through. I will go ahead and share my information in the chat and we all on the resources page on San Diego Tech Hub. I'm looking forward to meeting with you guys in person or one-on-one virtually. Thank you.
Thank you. So the sound didn't come through?
No, we couldn't hear the sound.
Excellent. That might have been my fault if I didn't share with sound. So I apologize for that.
No worries.
We'll make sure to send out the video for others, or we'll make sure to post that, but my apologies for that. Okay, well, let me get my notes here. All right, well, I would like to introduce Serena to you all. She is our keynote speaker for the evening, and I'll have her introduce her topic, but just to introduce her, she is the founder of Career Journeys and She is the founder of Career Journeys and a career and organizational consultant, transforming the way professionals, leaders, and teams show up at work. For the last 20 years, Serena has been creating professional and leadership development programs for prominent organizations, universities, and corporate teams. She has assisted thousands of leaders and individual contributors in realizing their professional aspirations. She has also created and facilitated hundreds of MBTI team sessions, developed company-wide emotional intelligence programs, and assisted professionals and leaders with how to have effective career conversations. Serena has provided high-level consulting services to such organizations as Hulu, Disney, Edison International, Southern California Edison, PG&E, NBC Universal, and University of Southern California, just to name a few. So please give a warm welcome to Serena, and appreciate you donating your time and sharing this topic with us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Claude. And hi, everyone. As Claude was saying earlier, the last time I joined you all, and actually Lisa pointed it out, was August 2020, when we were just kind of newly entering the pandemic, and we were talking about pandemic fatigue. So I'm so happy to be here on the other end now, talking about another way to support you all as you master stress tolerance and go into a new phase of the pandemic, which is hybrid workspaces. I know some folks I've met several folks who are dealing with long-term COVID effects if they've had it, and also just sort of reacquainting themselves with being back in person with people. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll also let you all know that the men in my household are on dog duty, trying to keep the dogs quiet while I'm presenting. So hopefully that is effective and they're doing their jobs. Hey everyone, you all can see the presentation now? Good, thank you. Masal, I see that head nod, and Claude, thumbs up, perfect. All right, we're going to talk today about mastering stress tolerance, which is really about thriving, not just surviving in challenging times. I'm actually going to take you through this session, and I'm excited to share with you that stress tolerance is actually a facet of emotional intelligence. And I think right now, more than ever, folks are leaning on their emotional intelligence to help them transition into 2022. So let's get into strategies. Let's get into some things that you all can think about. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that I will make sure that Claude has a copy, a PDF of the materials that you're seeing today, the deck. So that way, if you want to, glance at anything I've spoken about, you don't have to worry about vigorously taking notes. You'll get a copy of it later on. So I can pass that along to you, Claude, when the session is done. Okay, everyone, I am going to try to make sure I keep my eye on the chat, because I do want to encourage chat conversation during the session. There's some questions I'm going to ask you all, some things I'd love to get your opinion on. So feel free to jump in with that, but let's jump in and get started. All right, everyone, in terms of what I want to focus with you on here today in our time together, and I'll keep my eye on that time so I can turn it back to Claude to close. We're going to talk about learning ways to identify emotional triggers in times of stress and change. How do you pay attention to your body and know when you're getting triggered? We're next going to focus on, well, actually first, sorry, my animation was a little off there. First, we're going to understand what stress tolerance is. Then we're going to talk about ways to identify emotional triggers in times of stress. And last but not least, as a facilitator, I really want to make sure in all the work that I do that I give practical application. So I'm going to talk to you all about strategies to effectively manage emotional reactions to help you maintain a state of calm and clarity, even in moments of stress, in moments when you might get triggered, in things that come up in the work environment or even in your home environment. You can certainly apply this anywhere. All right. With that being said, I want to set the stage by talking about stress a bit. The American Institutes of Stress have some really eye-opening stats. 40% of workers reported that their job was very or extremely stressful. 25% view their job as the number one stressor in their lives, with 75% believing that workers have more on the job stress than a generation ago. I think workers today often will tell me, as I'm working with companies or leaders or professionals, that I have more to do. I'm doing 2 or 3 jobs in one. I'm also, as much as folks love technology, I can't tell you how many leaders tell me, gosh, I feel sometimes like I could spend 3 hours just catching up on email or messaging people or, all the technology stuff that you have to pay attention to. So that is bringing extra stress that wasn't there a generation ago. Job stress is more strongly associated with health complaints than financial or family problems. And 65% of workers said that workplace stress had caused difficulties for them, with more than 10% saying that these difficulties were having major effects on their life. So you've got this body of stats that talk about stress in the workplace in general, but then let's keep adding to that and talk about these new stressors that have come into our lives that started in March of 2020. Obviously, COVID-19, and even though the pandemic has shifted since the earlier days of a couple of years ago, it's still occurring. We have that new strain that's coming into effect. We have folks that have long-term COVID effects that are struggling, people who've had loved ones die, et cetera. We've also got a political environment that's pretty stressful right now. And we've got, as I mentioned, the long-term COVID impacts. Look, we've just got inflation and rising gas prices. Shoot, driving somewhere now can cost double the amount that it used to. And every day I go by the gas pumps, it just keeps inching upward and upward. And the constant media going on, things that are happening. And even watching the news can create stress for folks. With that being said, I want to ask you all to chat. What other stressors might be going on for you right now? And while you do that, I'm going to let this doggy out. So I can still hear everybody, but I'm just going to move my screen. What stressors are happening for you all right now? Go ahead and tap that in. And I'm paying attention to my chat function. What stressors, work-related, personal, what stressors are happening for you all? New job, getting over the learning curve, absolutely. Working remotely and feeling disconnected. Yep. Getting new jobs. Absolutely. You know, that's an interesting one, Claude, that feeling disconnected, because I've had a lot of leaders say to me, I'm trying to figure out how to build my work culture back with folks either coming back to work. Now we've got this new normal of a hybrid work environment, or we're still virtual, and we can't forget about work culture. So all of those stressors are happening. All right, so you can see there's a lot of stress that's occurring. And I think what's important to think about when you're thinking about this topic of stress tolerance is that I'm not suggesting that you're going to get rid of stress or that you're going to be able to put it in a box and ignore it. Stress tolerance is really about being able to handle large amounts of stress, but still maintain your calm and clarity throughout it, not losing your cool, not being so triggered that you don't think clearly, do things that you regret. So when we're defining stress tolerance, which is a phrase I know many folks haven't heard of or don't use regularly, we're really talking about a skill set that's handling a good amount of stress without losing your cool. It's also avoiding reactivity and regret, as well as improving your thoughts, behavior, and your mood. And then last but not least, of course, in the long term, you improve your brain, your body, and your health. So that's what I'm talking about, just to sort of level set what is stress tolerance. The other piece that I wanted to talk about with regards to stress tolerance is that it's a critical part of good emotional intelligence. So let me just shift gears really quickly and tell you how stress tolerance fits into the conversation around emotional intelligence. So today, not only are you going to learn about stress tolerance and some strategies for using stress tolerance and being good at it, but that's going to improve and build upon your overall emotional intelligence. And I'm telling you, that is one skill that professionals and leaders have said, I have had to lean in the last few years on good emotional intelligence and being able to really leverage it during these difficult times. All right. Oh, business inflation. Yeah. Inflation, absolutely. I'm just looking at some other, the traffic, real estate prices, work health. Yep. Having to drive again for, yep. Concerns with family, getting new job. Yep. Lots of stress occurring. Absolutely. All right, everyone, let's talk about, before I get into some strategies around emotional intelligence, I do want to set the context for emotional intelligence, because like I said, this is a facet of emotional intelligence. And let me share with you what is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, which can be abbreviated as EI or EQ, which is the emotional quotient, kind of pinging off of IQ, intelligence quotient. Emotional intelligence has a couple of different facets. And the first one is self-awareness and self-regulation. So this idea of, can you recognize your own emotions, how and why you feel a particular way? And part two of that is, can you manage your emotions and how others experience and see you? Are you able to, when you're feeling angry, regulate that emotion and not act in a way that you're going to later regret? Are you able to, when you're in a work environment, not shoot off that email and say something that you'll be embarrassed by later? That's part of that whole self-regulation piece, including being aware of your emotions, or knowing when you're being triggered so that you can know what to do to stop yourself from moving forward into a situation that you'll later regret. So a lot of times when I'm talking to folks about EQ, they think it's all about being nice and being good at connecting with people. And a lot of it is first about managing ourselves. And then the second piece of emotional intelligence is the social awareness and relationship management piece. So recognizing the emotions of others, picking up on verbal cues, picking up on body language, being able to recognize the emotions of others and respond effectively and respectfully. Today I had a great day of getting to talk all about emotional intelligence. In the morning, I did a session on helping leaders understand how to leverage empathy. And in the afternoon, I talked all about how to use optimism as a leader. And again, what I'm finding right now is that people are just really wanting to figure out, how do I take any tool or resource that I can to help myself show up as my best self at work, especially amidst all the stuff that's going on. So I'm so excited to share this particular topic because I think stress tolerance is really the crux of everything as we move into being successful in our work days. All right, let me just make sure I keep this chat function up. Yeah, I love that. Self-reflection and being aware of your environment. Okay, so now we have a level set of EQ, and you might be saying, Serena, well, great, but why is EQ so important? And look, bottom line is that EQ is estimated to account for 85% of job success. Whereas interestingly enough, they say I account for about 15%. Does it mean that your technical intelligence and your IQ is not important, your cognitive intelligence? Absolutely not. It is critical and it is important, but it's really the price of entry. It's what you minimally need to have to be good at your job. And really, when we talk about going from good to great and even star performance, we're talking about emotional intelligence. And about 25 years ago, Daniel Goleman started to provide research on this concept of it accounting for so much of your job success, and companies started to take notice. And now you have major companies across the world who are bringing emotional intelligence into their leadership development, into their employee development, and they're really changing cultures. They're creating healthier cultures with less politics, that have better engagement, better retention, and places that people want to work. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about the data around it. And I'm just going to use one facet of emotional intelligence, which is empathy. Business Solver's Workplace Empathy Monitor. If you're interested, you can check out that website. They've got a research study that talks about empathy in the workplace, and 77% of workers would be willing to work more hours for a more empathetic workplace. Meanwhile, 60% would accept a slashed salary for the same. 80% of millennials noted that they'd leave their current job if their office became less empathetic, and 66% of baby boomers also shared the same sentiment. So what we're talking about when we talk about stress tolerance, when we talk about emotional intelligence, empathy is a piece of that, is this is an important part of engaging and retaining our workers, as well as building, like I said, a very healthy and inclusive work culture. So with that context, let's talk a little bit about stress tolerance. Again, how you can have some strategies in your back pocket to use to help you as you move through your workday. And again, it helps improve your overall emotional intelligence. All right. So last thing I wanted to say about emotional intelligence is this particular wheel is what's called the EQ20 2.0 model for emotional intelligence. I promise not to get too academic. There are 5 pieces of pie. You'll see they're cut into colors. So self-perception is the red one, decision-making green, stress management blue. Within this model, there are 3 different skills of EQ underneath each piece of pie. So you can see that that makes for a total 3 times 5 of 15 different subscales or competencies that you can describe as being part of emotional intelligence. There's actually an assessment, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the session, that you can take if you would like to assess yourself on these areas and figure out what are my strengths, what are my areas of needed development. Today, I'm zeroing in on stress tolerance. So I'm going to talk about one factor within this broader scale of emotional intelligence. And again, that is going to help us focus on how do we remain calm, clear, and kind of have that calm curiosity as we move throughout the day. So we can handle the difficult situations we need to, that's stress tolerance. But you get a little bonus here because I'm also going to talk about impulse control. You can't talk about stress tolerance and managing your reactions without talking about impulse control, which is part of that. And then the third piece of that is emotional self-awareness. Again, you can't manage stress if you're not emotionally self-aware of what's going on for you, and you also need to control impulses to be able to manage that stress effectively. So you get 3 of these different areas that we're going to hit today in this one session. So with that being said, a real life work emergency going on. Totally get that. All right, everyone. So let's keep going here. So let's talk for a moment before we get into the depth of some of these strategies. Let's talk about some first steps in this process of being effective at using your stress tolerance. And the first step I want to talk about with where to begin in this kind of a process is number one, that self-awareness. One of the things I talk to professionals and leaders about constantly is this emotional self-awareness. Do you recognize when stress is even happening in your body? And so let's talk about that for a moment. Stress is often triggered by what I like to call them, what we call in an emotional intelligence world, as hot feelings. So let me give some examples of hot feelings: anger, anxiety, fear, panic. When these kinds of feelings come up, that's usually when stress is triggered. And so I wanted to ask you all, and feel free to chat this in the chat function. There's usually a physical reaction that happens when these hot feelings are occurring. And that's a clue for you to pay attention to and know, uh-oh, stress is just around the corner. I better watch out. I'll say for me, to kick it off, when I am getting anxiety, I get a pit in my stomach. I absolutely feel it in my body. I know when the process is happening. And it's usually at that time that I either step away from the situation because I don't want to do something I regret, or I will look to cool myself off. I'm curious for you all, when you experience any of these hot feelings, what are the physical reactions that come up in your body? If you wouldn't mind just chatting some thoughts around that, what comes up for you? Any physical cues? Muscle spasm, absolutely. It's a good one. Sweaty hands, yep. That's a good one too. Headache. Shaky voice. Oh, that's a good one, Lisa. Absolutely. Jaw clenched. Yep. You know, there was a stressful point for me at one point in my career where I was actually clenching my jaw at night and ended up needing to get chiropractic help for a lockjaw. And I realized it was stress related. Increased heart rate. Absolutely. You all are zeroing right in on the kinds of things that come up that alert us to the fact that hot feelings are arising. What I want to say is that our body is a really complex and beautiful tool that really allows us to, if we listen to it, kind of know what's going on and be prepared for and listen. I should say, we need to listen to this tool because it is really telling us, all right, a hot feeling's coming up, stress is about to come on, watch out. And I think that emotional self-awareness is paying attention to what's occurring in your body versus ignoring it and moving through it and ending up doing or saying something that you later regret. So let me share with you all some of the physical signs of hot feelings that you all were alluding to in your chat. So we've got here, hold on one second. For anger, pounding heart, sweating, rapid breathing, cold focused stare. We've got for anxiety, restlessness, pounding heart, rapid breathing, panic, achy muscles, and headaches. These are some of the actual physical signs that are affiliated with these particular emotions and feelings. So I think the first thing I want to say as we jump into strategies for helping with stress tolerance is, number one, pay attention to your body, listen to this tool, and pay attention to the signs when they're coming up, because if you ignore them, that's when we can get into a bit of trouble. So that's the first thing I want you to think about, especially as you build on that emotional self-awareness. But the second piece I want to share with you, and this is really the crux of good stress tolerance, is you're going to cool those feelings down. And that's the strategies I'm going to give you, is how to cool those feelings down. I'm not asking you to erase these emotions, because stress is here to stay, and these kinds of emotions and feelings, these hot feelings, are going to come up occasionally throughout the day. But here's the shift that you want to really be thinking about is, how do I cool that down? How do I go from anger to, look, I'm mildly annoyed. Okay, let's see how I can manage this calmly. Again, have that calm clarity. When you're having anxiety, how do I make this more of a concern instead of full-blown anxiety? When you're having pessimism, how do I turn that more into, hey, I'm feeling a little sad about that, but I'm not going to go into full pessimistic mode, which certainly doesn't look great when I'm leading a group or what have you. So my whole thought for you today, as you're thinking about stress tolerance, isn't to necessarily erase. because that's, we're human, but how do you just cool that down? How do you take it down a notch so that these triggers don't kind of run you as you're moving throughout your day? So with that to be said, my 4 strategies that I want to share with you all are about how to cool down your hot feelings and practice good stress tolerance. How do you take that bucket of water, cool it off, and keep moving throughout your day with that grace, poise, and good emotional intelligence that we all need to be successful in the workplace? All right, with that being said, let's get to strategy number 1. And this is a strategy I talk with professionals and leaders about a lot, which is sometimes you just need to put yourself in a timeout. If you notice that anger is occurring, frustration is happening, if you notice those hot feelings are coming up, I'm going to go back to that old saying that we all have heard. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. If you don't have something productive to say, don't say it at all. Remove yourself from the situation. Actually, noticing that you're getting triggered and having stress come up and removing yourself from the situation or using a timeout phrase is actually an excellent way of showcasing good emotional intelligence. And it's not something that you can do all the time, but it's a nice kind of emergency button to push. So with that being said, here's some thoughts. Have some timeout phrases that you can go to when you need them to exit a situation. Hey, let's pick this up tomorrow. Thanks for sharing your insights. Let's take some time to think about it before we connect again, especially if you notice yourself getting frustrated by the conversation. Let's stop for now so we can digest what was discussed. Those are great timeouts. Let me ask you all, what are some others that you may already use? And I'm going to throw one other out that I've heard people use and leaders use. Let's agree to disagree and then move on gracefully from the conversation or take a 5-minute break. Let me see what you all have. I'm going to pull, if you want to go ahead and feel free to chat in your chat function. Oh, good. I love that you like these, Lisa. Yeah, what I love is to have some of these timeout phrases available so you can use them when you need to remove yourself from a stressful moment. I think that's a good one. Hey, time for a restroom break. I think that's really a good one. Let's take a quick break. Let's take a 5-minute stretch break. Let's take a 5-minute bio break, a 1-function break, just a quickie. It's a good opportunity for you to reset, do a quick couple of breaths and move on. So that's actually a good one. Thank you, Lisa, for adding that. Is there any that any of you use? Any timeout phrases in addition that you all use? Let's see what we got here. Maybe we could take a break and look at it tomorrow with fresh eyes. Absolutely. Let's see what some of the other people in the room think. Beautiful, John. That's a great one. Perfect. Those are great opportunities for you to reset, especially if you feel yourself getting triggered and having an emotional reaction to whatever's going on. And remember, emotional is not just crying. It could be anger, frustration, any of that. All right, let me keep looking here. How will you manage your anger and what to say when a venue that hired you isn't giving a damn about paying? How would you not use intentional threatening sentences if it sounds like they're not going to pay you? Got it. That's a good question. So the question you can see Shuka asking is, how would you manage your anger, and what would you say if a venue that hired you isn't paying you on time? How would you not use intentional, I think you said threatening, sorry, intentional threatening sentences if it sounds like they're not going to pay you? Absolutely, that's a tough situation. But here, let me share my thought about that. This is, I think, one of the key pieces around stress tolerance and around good emotional intelligence. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to get the money, or that you shouldn't go after the money, or that you shouldn't be forceful where you need to be forceful. But I will say this, good emotional intelligence is even when those around you are taking the low road, it's about taking the high road. So I would say with something like that, you always want to look to be as professional as possible. Does that mean you're not assertive? Absolutely not. So maybe you say, hey, I do need to get my money and this is, what needs to happen. But I would encourage you to keep the high road. And if If you have to keep escalating it and escalating the conversations to other people, whatever you need to do, I would say just put your best foot forward and be as professional as possible with it. I would try to avoid the threatening statements, because again, it only impacts your professionalism in the situation and it doesn't get you anywhere necessarily. Look, at the end of the day, if someone truly isn't paying you and you need to bring in legal support, that's a whole other thing. But the more you can keep taking the high road, even when those around you are taking the low road, it continues to showcase your professionalism and your leadership presence, but it doesn't mean you're not assertive. So I hope that gives a little thought around that. All right, everybody, let's keep going here. I know I only have a little bit of time and I want to keep sharing a couple of other strategies. Timeouts, a quick one. Let's go to a little bit more of a sophisticated strategy that you can use, because you can't always take a timeout, right? Now, this strategy, SDNRR, and I actually have a little goodie for you after the session to help you with this particular strategy. This is one that actually is a more meditative moment that you can use to help you remain calm in a tough situation. And this has to do, let me first share what this means. It's stop, breathe, notice, reflect, and respond. You want to practice this and using this, and I'll show you an example of it right now. You want to practice using this in maybe some lower stake situations so that way you can be ready to use it and get it, like I said, practice before you have to use it in a higher stake moment. So let's take an example here. Let's say you're in the middle of a meeting, making a presentation to a group on your project status, and you've been having a stressful day. One of your colleagues makes a critical comment about your work in the meeting. You get angry and notice a hot feeling coming up. This would be a great time to use SBNRR before you react. So the first thing you would do is just stop. And you don't have to stop for a minute or that long. Just stop, even if it's for 3 seconds. I like to talk about the power of 3. Count to 3 before you speak. 1, 2, 3. Pay attention to the feeling. Don't say anything for a couple of seconds and just take a deep breath. Even if you just do these first 2 steps, you're going to have a moment for your brain to reset and be able to think a little more clearly using your EQ than if you just roll right into whatever you were going to say when you're getting triggered. So stop, take that deep breath. Remember the power of 3, count to 3. Next, notice what's happening. If you're getting flush, heart's beating, we talked a little bit about being aware of your emotions. People with good emotional self-awareness listen to what's going on in their body and are able to realize that stress is occurring for them. Next piece is you want to reflect. Consider why the trigger might be occurring. Maybe in those couple seconds that you stop, you realize, you know what? It was a tough morning with the kids. I'm not in a good place right now. I think I'm overreacting to this situation. Or there's a history with this colleague. He or she always challenges me. Or, this is a high stakes meeting and I'm feeling really fearful about my work being looked down upon. So you can kind of take a moment to reflect on what's going on. And then you respond. Bring to ways that you can respond and think about ways that you can respond to the situation where it would have a positive outcome. So you take that breath in. You remember that feedback is part of the process and how you react determines your professionalism, no matter what anybody else does. What you do impacts you and how you come across. And remember that this person always does this, so let it go. Be open to feedback, which is critical. Hold on, I'm just gonna move my screen is, okay. Offer to address it offline. Maybe you could also incorporate in a little timeout phrase. That's a really good point you've just made, but let's put it on our parking lot list and we'll come back to it in a little bit. I want to keep going in the presentation. I promise I'll address that a little bit later, which will give you a time to think about it as well and continue to move forward with your presentation. This whole process can take about 10 seconds of time if you've practiced it. And so at the end of our session, I want to share with you all a little recording I've done with this if you want me to send you a copy to help you just practice using SBNRR. So a couple of things I want you to think about when you think about SBNRR is remember the power of 3. Before you say something, count to 3. Just take that breath. It resets your brain. And then the second thing I always like to think about, this is also helpful for me, even when doing SBNRR, I think to myself, if somebody was recording me would I feel proud of what I watched back? And it really helps me think through how I want to behave in that particular moment. So that's another thing for you to think about as you're doing SBNRR. All right. Okay, let's keep going here. So that's another strategy I want you all to think about. Let's talk for a moment about a third strategy, which is I want to encourage you to find your specific way to cool down, cool those hot feelings down. All personality styles handle stress in different ways. And so my feeling is like, do unto others the way they would want it done to themselves. In other words, let's figure out what works for everybody and support each other in those moments of stress. So I've actually prepared for you all a worksheet where, you know, one of the areas that Claude mentioned I do work in is MBTI. So I've taken all the different personality preferences and looked at the way that they like to handle stress. And I put together a worksheet that I'm happy to give you at the end of the session. This worksheet lists out various ways that all different personality styles like to de-stress. And I really want you to think about what is the way I de-stress, and how do I keep a couple of those strategies in my back pocket when I'm having a hot feeling come up. So this is to the right what the worksheet looks like, but let me give you an example. Some people really want to talk to a trusted person about a situation that helps them calm down, helps them to tolerate stress a little bit more effectively. Some folks like to take a moment to listen to a meditation or calming music. Some like time alone. As much as people like to talk to folks, some people like time alone for as long as they need. And then others, and this is one that I put in even for myself, focusing on small tangible tasks like cleaning an area, cleaning out an email box, submitting an expense report, organizing files, or cleaning my email. That's a great way for me to kind of calm down and cool off. So here's what I want to recommend to you all as a third strategy. Take this worksheet, print some copies of it out or share it electronically with your team at work and have a conversation. Have people, everyone takes a moment and picks the couple of things that work for them as stress relievers, and then have a conversation and give everyone time to discuss what works for them so you know how to support them in stress. I do a lot of team building with groups, and one of the conversations we have is around stress. What puts you into stress and what takes you out of stress? And having those kinds of conversations bring up opportunities for people to support one another, because it's usually in stress moments where we break trust with people because we do something that's out of our typical character or behavior. So I encourage you to have a conversation with your team and also with your family. Sit down at the dinner table. Everybody takes a sheet. Everybody makes note. And this is great if any of you have children. Model good emotional intelligence for your kids because they certainly are going to need it in the workplace. Everybody talks about a stress reliever. We all learn something about each other and we all learn how to support each other in times of stress. And that opens up a really good dialogue. So that's an activity you could do with your team at work. Even if you're not the leader of the team, this can be something you recommend to the team, that the team have like a quick 5 or 10 minute conversation around this, and also something you do at home as well. All right. And yes, Shuka, I'll make sure that you have a copy of the slides. I'm going to give those to Claude, and that way you can use these moving forward. Awesome. Okay. So keeping my eye on the time and hoping to manage that effectively. My fourth thing for you all, this is really critical, is having a mindfulness practice. I'm not suggesting that you have to do yoga an hour a day, although that would be lovely, but I know that we all don't have time for that, and you don't have to do, well, I shouldn't say that. Some folks do, but it's not always what everybody enjoys doing too. Some folks don't love long meditations, but I want to encourage you, using breathing and quick mindfulness practices are really important. And I'll tell you in a moment about the brain chemistry behind that. But it allows you to become more in tune with what's going on for you. That can help build that emotional self-awareness. It also allows you to calm your brain down. If you're feeling that heightened emotion, I already talked about the power of 3, counting 1, 2, 3 before you speak. It's a great way to keep that calm and clarity. And also mindfulness helps you practice self-awareness, managing impulse impulse reactions and allows you to tolerate high stress when it comes your way. And it's actually preventative in tolerating high stress. So, you know, I know a lot of folks are doing getting up and stretching so you don't get carpal tunnel from sitting too long at your computer. I think that at the same time that you might get up and stretch, also get up and do a quick breathing activity. You can use the Calm app. Even my Fitbit's got a breathing activity on it. And I'm going to do a quick breathing activity with you all, give you all a minute or so just to practice this. Before I do that, let me say that why is it that we want to do this? So the higher cortex you see on the left-hand side under low emotion states is accessible to us. You can actually access your higher cortex when you're calm and relaxed. And guess what lives in your higher cortex? Your nuanced thinking, your emotional intelligence, your stress tolerance. So if somebody says to me, you know, Serena, I've got great emotional intelligence. I'm really good at managing stress tolerance. I'm really good at utilizing my stress tolerance. But if they're stressed all the time, they're not going to be able to access it, because as you see on the right, when you have heightened emotion, when you have those hot feelings, anger, fear, frustration, it disables your higher cortex. And what ends up happening is you end up running off of your amygdala. And your amygdala is that fight or flight brain, which, you know, is a great functionality of your body chemistry and your brain when you're, you know, being held up at gunpoint. But when you're managing work situations, you do not want to be functioning off of your amygdala. So companies who have embraced emotional intelligence and have emotional intelligence programs will actually build mindfulness into and throughout the day. One of the places that I do work at actually has meditation rooms where leaders and professionals can go take a time out and just have a quick breathing moment. Sometimes I've seen companies that also have like collective meditative moments for the whole organization. And it's not just a nice to have, it really does help the brain calm down. So we're going to do a little of that today. Actually, I want to give you the gift of a little opportunity to just kind of calm your brain down after a busy day. Let me also share with you all, and I can put this in the resources. This is a great book called The Stress Effect. And this book, let me read the title to you, Why Smart Leaders Make Dumb Decisions. This particular book is all about this slide. What it's talking about in this book is why today's leaders are under so much stress that they're running off of their amygdala. Their higher cortex is disabled. So really smart people are making dumb decisions because they're using their amygdala for the decision making. So this book actually calls it amygdala hijacking. And that's what leaders are experiencing. So that's a great title if you want to pick that book up and read it. I think it's interesting. Okay, with that to be said, let me go ahead and give you all the gift of freeing your amygdala and getting back to your higher cortex, especially after your days at work. So I'm going to go ahead and put on a quick, this is just a minute, and I can actually share this meditation with you if you like it, but I want to invite you right now to just close your eyes, sit in a really comfortable position, and just take a moment, because what I'm going to share with you is all voice focused. You're going to hear some rain initially, and then it's going to sound loud, and then the volume will go down a bit. So just know that it's going to quiet down in a moment. So here we go. Let me give you this gift. And Asal, could you give me a thumbs up, or someone give me a thumbs up, Attila or Claude, if you can hear it, just to make sure that the audio is working.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right.
Allow yourself to be comfortable. Take a moment to notice your breathing. Now taking a deep breath, gently pushing your stomach forward. Hold and release the breath. Another deep breath in. Hold. Slowly release the breath. One more deep breath in, hold, and let it out. Focus on your breathing. Your mind and body are starting to relax. Allow all of your thoughts to wash away. Feel a sense of peace come over you. Take in a deep breath, hold, and release the breath. You are at peace.
All right, go ahead and open up your eyes. How are you all feeling? Calming, absolutely. What I love about this particular breathing meditation, I love it, relax. What I love about this breathing meditation, it's really easy, it's simple, it's not long. It's just easy to listen to. So again, I'm happy to share Epic Meditations is where I got it from. Plus, if you like this one in particular, I'm happy to share a link to it for you. It's a great one to have downloaded on your phone. And I encourage you to listen to it a couple of times a day to proactively keep that higher cortex enabled with a low emotion state. Ultimately, the way that you want to be during the day to have good stress tolerance is you want to be calm, you want to have good clarity, you want to have emotional equilibrium and have that calm curiosity. The more emotional equilibrium you can have, the more effective you can be in how you handle situations. All right, let's keep going. So remember that daily mindfulness practice is also a strategy I want to highly encourage for stress tolerance. All right, let's pull it all together in the last few minutes here, and then I'll get it back over to Claude. And let's talk about all the things I've just shared with you all. And let's just talk about an example. Jamie is a manager on a large project that involves multiple different teams at her organization. The project team's been focused on finishing the work for this big launch on May 25th. However, earlier this week, a senior leader sends an email to the group requesting that they change the focus area and push the launch date up to April 1st. As the manager of the project, Jamie intensely stares at her email. Her heart begins beating fast and she yells out loud, "Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. I'm so sick of it. Sick of this. It's always something around here," and immediately fires off a frustrated email to her manager, CCing the rest of the project team. So Jamie's working in her office. The colleagues that are nearby in her work area hear her and hear this emotional response. So what could Jamie have done to have avoided this situation, which chips away at her professional reputation, also chips away in the work environment, chips away at team collaboration, all that sort of good stuff? What physical signs show up if Jamie was following some of the strategies we talk about? She would notice my intense stare, my heart beginning to beat fast, and my yelling, "Uh-oh, hot feeling, stress is coming up." What are her hot feelings? Anger, which could eventually lead to anxiety, despair, and even embarrassment for the way she's behaved. What cool ones should she replace them with? So perhaps it would be annoyance. Like, look, this is the world of work. Okay, I'm frustrated, but let me cool that down to annoyance. I'll figure out a way to handle this. Let me take a break. Let me go walk around. I'll take my own time out. Let me walk around the building. And actually, some of those strategies she could use before she acted, before she sent the email, before she yelled out loud, before she had everybody witnessing her, she could have tried SBNRR. If she couldn't take a timeout, if she could take a timeout, walk to the bathroom, outside, get a glass of water, quick 30-second breathing meditation, all of those things would have saved her probably maybe now some hours of time fixing the mistakes she's made with the frustrated email she sent off, and now having to, also being a bit embarrassed by how she's behaved in front of her workplace, how people have witnessed her, etc. So look, this isn't just about taking care of yourself, but it's also about saving time of having to fix situations that you later regret from behavior that happens under stress. All right, everybody, I'm also going to give you, as I close out here, a stress tolerance plan if you're interested in it, and some of the things you could put in it. Put together a stress tolerance plan, pick a couple of the timeout sayings. This is an example of mine. And just have them available in front of your work area. Put them on Post-its at your desk to kind of give you that opportunity to say, oh, time for me to not say what I'm about to say and let me take a time out. Also put some of your stress relievers. What are some of the things that help you reset? Maybe you decide to practice SBNRR twice a week for a month in non-critical situations, and make sure that you share your plan with a colleague, a manager, a mentor, perhaps another conduit to get some support in this area. All right, everybody, last but not least, I have some goodies for you. If you'd like a copy of the stress tolerance plan, I also put together an SBNRR practice audio just to help you practice that concept. So it's something you can listen to. I'm happy to send that download. I've also got some additional on-the-job activities and videos to help you build stress tolerance, plus that stress reliever handout I discussed in session. And if you want more information on how to take the EQI 2.0 assessment and understand your EQ strengths and development areas, then shoot me an email and I'm happy to get any of these goodies or all of them over to you, whatever is of interest. And I think Claude put some info in the chat function about the deck coming and how that will, the recording, and then I can certainly get the deck to you all. So with that being said, I know I hit 6:30. My apologies, Claude, I didn't give you the couple minutes. So I am going to stay on, but I'm going to turn it back over to Claude because I want to be sure that you all finish on time. So thank you all for being here. And I encourage you to take these strategies and move forward in building your own stress tolerance practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Very insightful. Took a lot of notes, even though you said you're going to send out the deck and everything. I still took some notes to go, and I was very relaxed through it. I want to thank the San Diego Tech Hub conduits for just showing up. I know it's late in the day, but hopefully you all learned a little bit about how to help maintain or control some of the stress in your life. And so thank you again, Serena, for your time. Appreciate you giving back. And conduits, thank you very much for showing up. And I will see you all very soon. Bye, all.